Hey you guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here with another update on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard prison emails that have been released through a FOIA request. I had a few little notes of things that I picked up on when I was listening to the Into the Weeds podcast hosts read these emails, and yeah, these are just totally random, but we're going to get into it. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so if I were to summarize how I feel about all of these emails in a really brief description, for me, having covered Gypsy Rose for as long as I have and kind of knowing, the strange personality traits that she has publicized, and also knowing what she was up to regarding orchestrating this crime, so on and so forth, for me, these emails do two things. It proves that she has to be in control. She has to dominate whatever relationship she's in, and she will control it by manipulation tactics and guilt and shame and putting someone in a corner so that they give in to whatever her request is. The second thing is it really shows how she wasn't this sheltered little girl that didn't have a childhood and she didn't know anything. Gypsy Rose was, in fact, very knowledgeable when it came to how to get her way, how to get people to serve her in some way, shape, or form. Since all of this is happening and Gypsy has finally come out and made a statement, I decided to throw it in the beginning of the video along with Conspiracy's commentary because I fully agree with her on what she had to say. So I'm going to let this roll and then we'll get into the emails. Gypsy's statement is basically all just BS, lies, nonsense, but here it is.
I'm not tripping over the emails. I was in my 20s.
Wrong. A lot of the emails are from 2023, just months before your prison release.
How would everybody else feel if their personal diary was released to the public?
Oh, you mean how you've been posting Nicholas Godejohn's email?
I'm sure we've all done embarrassing things that we regret. But like I said, I was in my 20s. I'm not the same like I was back then.
Didn't you, just a few weeks ago, announce to the world and post your ex-husband Ryan Anderson's personal medical information?
I did some stupid stuff, yes. Do I do stupid stuff now? Yes.
There are over 1,000 pages of Gypsy Rose Blanchard's emails. Some of the very first emails that were read were from 2023, just months before her prison release, such as the Goddess Gypsy emails. Goddess Gypsy emails between Gypsy and this person, where Gypsy would call them her loyal, obedient servant, took place just months before her prison release. But when this person found out that Gypsy was married, the money stopped. This is an email from September to that person where Gypsy says, "You don't get to walk away from your goddess. I want my weekly $50. I am still your goddess." And it's not like Gypsy was hurting for money while she was in prison. She was getting $200 sent to her every month by her parents. And I'm sure Ryan was sending her money as well. Not to mention the amount of people, particularly men, that Gypsy would write to, talking about how she wasn't physically attracted to her husband, Ryan Anderson. She was constantly having second thoughts and contemplating even being married to him, but still ended up marrying him, so she had an address to go home to. Probably because she didn't want to go home to her parents' house because her father, Rod, was constantly cheating on her stepmother, Christy. There's the emails about the act where someone is asking her about it, and she says that the act is true, but she's told everyone else that the act was inaccurate. And she also failed to mention that someone from the act had reached out to her offering to set her up a trust fund.
So let's start at the top. These are totally random, no specific order. They're just things that stuck out to me when I was listening. So in December of 2021, Ken shared that he had a new partner. And I wonder current day, I don't know who that person is. They've never come forward and said, to my knowledge, but I wonder if he ever thinks of this, kind of circus that he's now involved in and tied to Gypsy because they have a child together, I do wonder, does he ever reminisce on whoever this person was and having started a relationship with somebody that was not a diabolical little gremlin? And maybe if there is some kind of regret in the decisions that he's made since her release, I kind of wonder that. I doubt it, but I am curious. The other thing that really stuck out to me was that Gypsy Rose was fiercely chasing a follower count from prison. This was always about how many followers can I get? How many followers do I currently have? How many likes am I getting? How many views am I getting? How am I going to make money off of all of those things combined? It was never about awareness. It was never about somebody wanting to come out and share their life because that's just what they wanted to make content about. It was always a numbers game. And if you support Gypsy Rose, or if you follow her and you think that she gives two shits about you as a person, you are wrong. You are nothing but a number to her and a way to grift on the internet and continue to make money. In one of the email exchanges between her and her father, Rod, she admits to him that she is very much like him and she wants to explore other men and doesn't necessarily like the idea of being tied down and committed to one person. And I will link part 1 of this down below, so if you missed it, you'll kind of follow and see why that is a big deal, because Rod, through these emails, has been exposed as a serial cheater and somebody that has zero respect for Christy, and Gypsy admitting that she's like him. Am I surprised? No. Do I think that it is very telling? Yes. Now, something else that mirrors part 1 of this whole conversation, emails that were released, it really shows that Rod and Gypsy have a very, in my opinion, inappropriate kind of father-daughter relationship. He says that he was bragging about being sexy after he quit smoking cigarettes, and despite the fact that he gained weight, he thought that he was looking sexy, and he also bragged to Gypsy about not having a girlfriend. Granted, he is married and calling himself sexy and bragging about not having a girlfriend on the side. What a stand-up guy. There was also something that he said that for me, I think that Rod and Ryan both share this trait. I think that there is some underlying phobia with both of them, and I've picked that up along the way by just listening to random things that they have said publicly. And Rod says how much FAOTS love Trump. Now, number one, why are we even using that word? You know that it's derogatory, you know that it's disgusting, and you know that it's wrong, and you're commenting on how they love Trump. Like, what a bizarre thing to say. But what I'm focused on is the fact that you are using a homophobic slur when talking to your daughter who's in prison for murdering her mother. What a weird relationship. She also got mad at Rachel Garlick for talking on social media about Gypsy after Gypsy asked Rachel to start these social media pages and make sure that the world was following along for when she would be eventually released. So she wanted Rachel to build the social media presence, but not talk about Gypsy, even though they were pages for Gypsy. She also had a great idea of what she could do for a podcast. She had the bright idea that she could bring on somebody who was an expert in Munchausen by proxy and make a podcast surrounding that. As a reminder for anyone who might not know, Dee Blanchard was never diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy. That was something that was introduced after she was unalived at the request of Gypsy Rose. And it was something that, in my opinion, her defense team could really lean on heavily, so that people thought that Dee Dee was this, super villain and just this crazy woman. So we're going to really lean heavily on Munchausen by proxy. But she was never diagnosed with that. She's also talking to this guy who has been labeled as the tattoo guy, and she shares with a tattoo guy that she wanted to date around because she wasn't ever able to hoe around and nobody had beat it up. And she also says that she's kind of like a virgin. What are we even talking about here? I don't think that hoeing around is typically on anyone's bucket list. Do I think it's important to have free will and discover and date and do all of the things? Yes, but hoeing around and saying that nobody had beat it up is very concerning. In all of these emails, she talks a lot about always wanting to be single. She doesn't want to be tied down. The gremlin has serious commitment issues, and that's been confirmed by all of these emails. But with this tattoo guy, she also calls Ryan a big guy and clarifies that it's not muscle. So we have a long-standing history here of her embarrassing Ryan and body shaming him for the medication that he takes and his path to, recovery. And even when she was in prison, she was shaming him. And later on, I'm going to talk about kind of how she guilted people into doing what she wanted them to do. It is confirmed that she was literally only using Ryan so that she had a plan and would look good in front of the parole board. I said this over a year ago. I felt like she used Ryan for a home plan and to look good in front of the parole board, and he was just there to serve a purpose temporarily. Like, why are we still body shaming people? And why do you have to tell this random guy that Ryan's big and it's not muscle? She also insults strippers, saying that, basically strippers are just no good, and how rich, coming from somebody that was literally sitting in prison for abusing and manipulating a disabled man to unalive her mother, and you're worried about strippers from prison. And just to make it very clear, I'm here for SWs, I'm here for strippers, I'm here for it. But you're not in any seat to be talking down about what anyone is doing to earn their income. Jumping back to the Ryan embarrassing, thing that she does, she says that she would rather cuddle than engage sexually with Ryan. I think Ryan's weird. I think Ken is weird. I think anyone who sent her emails while she was in prison, you've got to be weird to even think that that's a normal thing. By the way, it's also been uncovered that the DOC did not edit out Snapchat screen names, Instagram screen names, Facebook screen names. If you sent Gypsy Rose Blanchard a prison email and shared your social media handle with her, based on what I understand, the DOC did not blank those out. So there's that too. But by you saying this, all it does is continue to prove that you used Ryan. You never cared about him. You were never in love. You simply did that so that you would look good in front of the parole board. And we go back to square one, where it is pure manipulation to serve Gypsy. She also talks in emails about how Nick wrote her when he was in prison, and she was obviously in prison as well. She replied with a letter saying she wouldn't rekindle things with him because she was happy in her current relationship. You've painted Nick to be the ultimate villain in this story. He's the worst of the worst. But you're not going to rekindle things with him because you're happy in your current relationship, not because he your mother and is this big scary monster and belongs behind bars. There was also a trust fund that was set up, and upon her release there was approximately $50,000 in the trust fund. I don't believe that if you go to prison for taking somebody's life and it's proven that you did that, you shouldn't be allowed to come out to a $50,000 trust fund and to be made into a celebrity. This goes so far outside of, like, what are we doing as a society? So some people, if you're famous enough, then you can get a trust fund and have a really nice nest egg to sit on when you're released from prison. There are people that have gone to prison for non-violent offenses, and they have come out to $0. How backwards is that? Going back to how two-faced she is, she was in emails with Dawn, and Dawn was, having conversations with Nicholas, and she would go back and forth with Dawn in this really positive, Nick is so scary, I understand, I'm a DV survivor, blah, blah, blah. But then she would go and basically drag Dawn when she was talking to Ken. She also tells Ken that this story is legendary and they can live a normal life by ignoring the hype. She also tells Ken that on Easter she will wear a bunny tail butt and ears and will be his little Playboy bunny. How disgusting. How disgusting. Just a minute ago, we were talking down about strippers and calling people blonde bimbos and, insulting anyone that you might see as maybe a threat. And now we're talking about doing all of this. Number one, you have capitalized on your story being legendary. It's always been about the attention, the money, the clicks, the views, the admiration that you receive from people that just refuse to see this for what it is. You're calling hype, people calling it what it is. People calling it what it is. You did the most egregious, disgusting crime. People are allowed to call you out on that, and it is not hype. And as far as the bunny thing, I wanted to actually vomit a little bit when I heard that. Ew. With Ken, there's just a lot of love bombing that she does. Tons of love bombing, manipulation, immature kind of back and forth. She says that she has 2 teddy bears for them that they'll use when they get married, like in their wedding ceremony. 2 teddy bears that have been sitting in your prison dorm for who knows how long, and you're going to use those in your wedding. It's giving extreme immaturity. She also requests to have a clawfoot bathtub in the house that she is in her mind designing, that Ken is going to just swoop in and give her, I want a clawfoot tub and I want this. Like, imagine having that kind of request list while you're literally sitting in prison for killing your mother. She also said that she was labeling things in her prison dorm or prison cell as Gypsy Euchre. You're not even married, girl. Like, you're sitting in prison and you're talking about relabeling your stuff with a last name that is not yours. And she really got upset because Ken's mother would not give her blessing for them to get married. She did not accept it. She was not interested in it. And Gypsy had her poor little feelings hurt by that one. She was very upset about that. She also talks about getting a dog. She also mentions a dog, Balto. I don't know who Balto is. I know that Ken currently has Parker, which is his dog. We saw what Gypsy did with Pixie. We have seen the way that she is totally okay with discarding people and pets as soon as she does not need them or is no longer entertained by them. What a weirdo. The last thing I want to talk about is there was so much pressure being put on Ken. She talks about how they have to get married before she sees the parole board. She needs to have a home plan. This is what will make me happy, in all capital letters. Just a lot of guilting, never allowing things to happen organically. It's a lot of pouting, guilting, love bombing, and just pre-planning to an insane degree instead of allowing things to happen organically. But anyway, that's the kind of recap that I had, a bunch of random little notes. I will continue to listen as these videos come out, and I will probably make a third and final part. But for now, yeah, God, imagine, I feel so bad for her daughter, knowing that her daughter is going to eventually grow up and be able to see all of this information. It sucks, but that's the way it goes for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.